All right, everybody. As I said before, I wanted to come back and share my full testimony with you. This video will probably be the longest one that I make. And then I will eventually, like I said, get to the shorter videos, I promise. So again, I want to thank you for watching and sharing the 2 videos I've made previously. That has led to some other counseling opportunities in person, on the phone, by Facebook Messenger. And I am going to school for Christian counseling. About 90 something hours through that. I had to stop that for a while to focus on my family, and I'll share more about that later. But my name, Jason, means healing spirit. God has kind of blessed me with the gift of being a good listener. He's given me knowledge over the years and given me wisdom on what to say during certain situations. So I've had some really successful counseling sessions recently, and the ones that have happened recently would not have happened had you not liked and shared the Facebook videos that I've made so far. So I just want to thank you for that. You're helping build the kingdom of God. You're helping disciple people. You're helping to do the work of God by doing what you've done so far. Not to mention the fact that I appreciate it so much. I just appreciate the encouragement. I haven't had any negative feedback at all so far. I know that's coming, but I'm not even worried about it at this point. God has just really blessed me with a great audience so far. So I appreciate that so very much. One other disclaimer, since I just said that, because of my schedule, my long work hours, and because of my priority being to my wife and my children, and then now, that I'm having to help other people, this is going to, that's going to increase that part of the ministry of helping other people as I continue to make these videos. I just want to reiterate that I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm not going to engage in any debates when I get critical comments and stuff. I may or may not respond to them. I don't know. Right now I'm thinking not at this point, because our time, everybody's time, is so precious and valuable. So I will leave critical comments, comments that you may dispute something that I say, or you may disagree with something that I say, as long as it doesn't turn into arguing or cussing or gossiping or anything like that. Then I'll leave those comments and let them stand. So now, getting on my testimony, my story. This is a challenge to me because I'm going back 15 years, and in some cases I'm going back to my childhood. So I've been really trying to focus on, what is important to share, what can I put in further videos, how do I get this going right? And so what I did was I wrote down, some highlights, and I'm just going to kind of go with the flow of this and see where it leads, okay? I guess first I want to start off with some things that came against me early on in our childhood. We're all shaped by things that happen to us, good and bad, in our childhood, and that kind of becomes who we become as adults. And so to start off with some of the hardships, the things that came against me, I guess these are all sensitive issues. I chose to bring forth 3 issues of my childhood, and they're sensitive. And so I'm not going to talk a whole lot about them, but I just want to try to be really careful, with what I say here. But first of all, my mom had me when she was only 16 years old. My mom and dad, they got divorced when I was just a baby. So therefore, I grew up without a really rock solid relationship with my real dad, or without the relationship with my real father. My mom had a second marriage, and then a third, and then I had another stepdad who I called dad also from the time I was 8 years old on. I love both of my dads, Wayne and Mike, very much. I have nothing but love for them. I do not regret anything that happened to me regarding that, because I think what happened to me growing up without a real close dad, the kind of dad I am to my children right now, I don't think I'd be the dad that I am right now if I had the kind of childhood that I may have wanted. Okay, so I hope that came out right. I have nothing but love and respect for Wayne and Mike, and I just want that to be said. Also, another thing that kind of shaped me, I had several experiences of abuse. It's hard to call it molestation. God always seemed to protect me. I'm going to talk about that in future videos. But, I was exposed. I was touched in certain ways on a number of occasions, I guess 5 occasions when I was a child. And but God, like I said, He always seemed to protect me. Like there was one incident where a man had me in a closet when I was a kid in a hotel room, and he started feeding me one of my favorite foods, which was ravioli, just straight out of the can, and started talking to me all quiet and soft. And I don't know what was about to transpire, but before anything got carried away, somebody knocked on the hotel room door, and I escaped out of that. It didn't always go that smoothly, but looking back, God protected me. The main reason I wanted to bring up the abuse, molestation, and stuff is I keep an eye on my kids big time. I'm aware of everywhere they go, everything that they do. My wife is the same way. We live in a culture, I heard on a video a while back, that we live in a culture now where 1 in 3 children are sexually abused or molested in some way, boys and girls. So that's a big deal. And I just wanted to mention that from my past, because not only did it shape me and confuse me in a certain way, but we need to watch out for our children, okay? We live in a crazy world. So that's another thing. Don't want to go too much further into that. Also, I've always been a believer. I mentioned that in one of my previous videos, but it wasn't just a belief in God. It was a belief in just the whole supernatural realm. I had a lot of other experiences, satanic attack even when I was a kid. I've had several incidences of sleep paralysis where, in my dream I was watching through the eyes of some other figure, as it would come and hover over me in my bed. I know that sounds weird. I woke up one night and saw an apparition of what I could only describe as a witch calling out my name to come to them. I had some experiences with Ouija boards, some freaky experiences with that when I was a kid. Do not let your kid, do not play with Ouija boards. I even walked upon in the woods, a sacrifice in the woods. I don't know if it was an animal. Hope to God it was a human, but a bunch of people in white robes, and there was blood everywhere. So I had a lot of experiences like that were really confusing, And so my point in sharing any of that stuff is, God isn't, the devil is not all knowing like God is. He doesn't see the future, but I do believe that he can tell, like this person has potential. This person is sensitive to the things of the spiritual world. I don't want them to get too carried away with God. So I want to try to cut them off early, things like that. And I just believe that there was a lot of attack on my life early on. And, a lot of those things shaped me and probably compelled me to be to do some of the bad things that I did later on, the drugs and the alcohol, the fighting, the womanizing and stuff like that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so that being said, I don't want people to think that my childhood was all bad. It was not all bad. It was balanced with stability. I had very stable grandparents. I just made a Facebook post about them yesterday, married for 65 plus years. My grandma is still alive. My grandfather has gone on to be with Christ. And but they, I lived with them a lot. Well, my mom worked a lot, and her being a single parent for some of that time, I lived with my grandparents. And so I got a lot of good influence and stability from them. I was also involved in sports. I was very good at football as a child, and that kind of built. I hate, I'm against that self-esteem now, and I'll make another video about that later on. But it did give me some worth. It gave me some value. It gave me something to do, and it provided stability in my life as well. But let's fast forward. Let's go on into the high school years, I guess, okay? Because eventually I want to get to my testimony of all that God has done in my life. That's the primary purpose of this video. Loss of football. By the time I got to be in 10th grade, I ended up having back surgery, and having back surgery that crushed me. It seems like things were pretty much going my way. I was doing good even as a freshman, and playing a lot, even on varsity as a sophomore. And so things were looking up. I just had to work hard and keep going. But I ended up getting hit in a game that led to a back surgery, and my life started spiraling downhill after that. I didn't know how to recover from that. I didn't have any good counsel. And from that back surgery, of course, when I couldn't play football anymore, my grades started slipping. I started drinking. I started hanging out with, I guess people who could stay out. I don't want to call them bad people because I loved them. I had, like groups of friends. Some were responsible, and then some, could kind of just hang out and do whatever they wanted to do. And being out all night, you get in trouble. I got arrested a lot of times. I got into harder and harder drugs. But again, just like when I was a child, God seemed to always be with me. He seemed to protect me a lot. For instance, just give you a couple of occasions of protection. One time when I should have been arrested, I got caught by this lady who was watching a whole bunch of criminals at a particular Dillard store. She had turned everybody in. People got arrested over and over. But for whatever reason, when she caught me one time, she warned me. She told me to go put the stuff up, said she believed in me, that I shouldn't be doing this, and she let me go. There was another time when I did get arrested, but I had a quarter pound of marijuana in my truck. I got out of my truck to sell a quarter bag, only like 7 ounces of marijuana, to somebody else. And the undercover Bossier police, they swarmed us, but in that car. So they didn't catch me with what I guess would have been a felony with that big amount of marijuana that I had. They just got us on a smaller charge with that small amount of the marijuana. And so a lot of things happened to me like that. I could have gotten in trouble for a lot of the things. There are things that I did that I didn't get caught for. Guns, I've shot at people, I've been shot at, I've had a lot of instances like that. But then I would get in trouble for lesser things. Like one night I got pulled over just for being in the back of a truck wearing a red bandana on my head. I got in trouble, had to go to jail for that, talking back to the cops and stuff, So I didn't get in as much trouble as I could have. And in hindsight, I look at God keeping me that whole time. Moving on, after high school, I went into the restaurant business. I tried college, but without football, college had no appeal to me. In the restaurant business, I got into harder drugs, and I was using drugs daily by then. Marijuana was a daily thing for about a 5-year stint, but I was also on crystal meth and crack and all kind of pills. People would call me Double Down because I would take twice as much as what other people would take. I would take any pill you could. I didn't care what it was. I would just pop it. There were many incidences where I had a few near-death experiences also. Like one time I remember whatever I took, it made me paralyzed in my body, and all I could do was see out of my eyes. I was laying on the floor. People were laughing at me. I felt my life slipping away from me. And I wanted so bad to tell them, please take me to the hospital. But all I could do, I remember, excuse me. Sorry, I still hadn't got over all this sickness. But I was anxious to get this video recorded, so I'm doing this for you guys. A tear was streaming down the side of my face, and I was passing out, thinking that I was about to die and go to hell. Again, believing in God, but not living the way that I should be at all. I didn't know if I had a true saving faith. And I cannot describe the level of fear and then the level of relief when I woke up about 15 hours later. That happened to me 2 or 3 times, 2 severe, a third, where I just passed out thinking, that I was going to die again. So anyway, some other stuff, that just kind of led me further downhill. Okay, fast forward. an opportunity came about to work at the post office. My grandfather had retired from the post office, had a great career there. He loved it. And so I thought, well, when this opportunity came up, they only tested back then like every 5 years or so. So it was a big deal. And I decided to go on and take the test. I loved the restaurant business, but I couldn't grow up. I couldn't mature, couldn't get off drugs or anything. And I thought the post office would be an opportunity to go and change my life maybe. So the post office, I call this my post office seminary. It has been a wonderful thing for me. I've had a lot of